Most people think all Amish customs are ancient traditions passed down unchanged for centuries. But there's a secret divide: old traditions from Europe versus newer American rituals that developed over time. This hidden split reveals surprising truths about adaptation, what most people get wrong. Walk into any discussion about the Amish, and you'll hear people talk about their ancient traditions as if everything they do came straight from 17th century Europe. That's only half the story. Traditions are ancient practices brought directly from Europe in the 1,700 seconds that never changed core religious beliefs, basic family structures, original farming methods passed down word for word, generation after generation. American rituals are newer ceremonial practices that developed in America to solve practical problems while keeping traditional appearances, modified worship timing, adapted celebration methods, American-influenced customs that look traditional but aren't. Sunday church services. Sunday worship reveals this divide more clearly than anywhere else, with European foundations mixed with American adaptations that most outsiders never notice. Traditions include original German hymn singing that takes 20 minutes per song, scripture readings in Pennsylvania Dutch exactly as spoken in Europe, and prayer patterns unchanged since the 1,600 seconds. These elements remain identical to what their ancestors practiced in Switzerland and Germany centuries ago. American rituals include service timing adapted to American work schedules instead of European farming patterns, seating arrangements modified for American home sizes rather than European church buildings, and community meal timing adjusted for local farming seasons while preserving spiritual foundations that define authentic worship. Wedding celebrations. Marriage ceremonies showcase the most dramatic examples of how European traditions blend with American practical adaptations while maintaining spiritual authenticity. Traditions encompass marriage vows spoken in German using phrases unchanged for 300 years, family blessing ceremonies that follow exact European Anabaptist patterns, and spiritual commitments that connect directly to original religious requirements established in European communities. These core elements remain absolutely unchanged from their European origins. American rituals involve wedding timing moved from European spring patterns to November-December to fit American agricultural seasons. Community celebration sizes adapted to American settlement distances rather than European village proximity, and feast preparations modified for available American foods like turkey and corn instead of European ingredients, while maintaining traditional spiritual significance and family involvement patterns that preserve authentic marriage. Foundations. Funeral and burial practices. Death rituals demonstrate how sacred traditions from Europe adapted to American realities while preserving their deepest spiritual meanings and community support systems. Traditions include body preparation methods brought directly from European Anabaptist communities, viewing customs that preserve original beliefs about death and dignity, burial practices that maintain European concepts of simplicity and equality in death, and mourning patterns that reflect centuries-old spiritual understanding of life transitions. These practices remain virtually unchanged from their European origins. American rituals encompass community gathering sizes adapted to American settlement patterns where families live farther apart, memorial service timing adjusted to American weather conditions and travel distances, burial ground locations chosen for American soil conditions rather than European community graveyards, and memorial meal preparations modified for American food availability while maintaining traditional spiritual foundations and family support systems that characterize authentic mourning practices within established religious frameworks. Baptism requirements. Adult baptism represents perhaps the purest preservation of European tradition while incorporating American practical modifications that ensure spiritual authenticity across different circumstances. Traditions preserve adult baptism standards exactly as practiced in 17th century Europe, spiritual preparation requirements that mirror original Anabaptist practices, church membership commitments identical to those required in European communities, and theological foundations established by early European reformers that remain completely unchanged. These spiritual requirements show no adaptation or modification from their European origins. American rituals include baptism timing adapted to American climate patterns rather than European seasonal schedules, community witness gatherings modified for American settlement distances where families travel farther to attend ceremonies, celebration methods adjusted to available American resources rather than European community structures, and ceremonial locations chosen for American geographic conditions while preserving traditional spiritual requirements and community integration processes that define authentic religious membership and spiritual commitment within established religious frameworks that connect modern American Amish directly to their European Anabaptist ancestors through unchanged spiritual practices. Seasonal celebrations. Holiday observances reveal the complex balance between maintaining European spiritual traditions and adapting ceremonial expressions to American agricultural and social realities. Traditions maintain religious holidays and seasonal spiritual observances that connect directly to original European agricultural and religious calendar systems, spiritual meanings that remain identical to European Anabaptist celebrations, and theological significance that preserves centuries-old understanding of seasonal cycles and divine providence. These spiritual foundations show no change from their European origins and maintain identical religious meaning across generations. American rituals encompass community gathering methods modified for American distances between farms, where families might travel hours to attend celebrations, celebration activities adjusted for American climate conditions that differ from European weather patterns, ceremonial timing adapted to American agricultural seasons that follow different planting and harvest schedules, and food preparation modified for American crops and available ingredients while maintaining traditional spiritual significance and cultural identity preservation that defines authentic seasonal observance within traditional religious frameworks and community celebration patterns that preserve essential spiritual meaning while adapting practical expressions to American geographic and agricultural conditions. Coming of age practices. Rumspringa and youth development practices show how European concepts of spiritual maturity adapted to American social conditions while preserving core spiritual development goals. Traditions preserve Rumspringa concepts brought directly from European Anabaptist communities, spiritual preparation requirements that mirror original European practices for adult church membership, adult responsibility transition patterns established by European communities centuries ago, and youth development approaches that maintain European understanding of spiritual maturity and community integration. These foundational concepts remain unchanged from their European origins. American rituals include community supervision methods adapted to American social conditions, where youth encounter different temptations and opportunities than European youth faced, activity permissions adjusted for American cultural influences and geographic mobility that didn't exist in European villages, ceremonial recognition patterns modified for American settlement realities, where communities are more dispersed, and practical guidance systems developed for American economic and social conditions while maintaining traditional spiritual foundations and cultural identity preservation that characterizes authentic youth development within traditional community frameworks and spiritual guidance systems that prepare young adults for full community membership and lifelong spiritual commitment to traditional values and religious practices. Work and community service. Community labor and mutual aid reveal how European cooperation principles adapted to American agricultural conditions and settlement patterns while maintaining spiritual foundations of collective responsibility. Traditions include mutual aid requirements identical to European Anabaptist practices, community labor expectations that preserve original European concepts of collective responsibility, shared work obligations that maintain European understanding of community survival through cooperation, and spiritual attitudes toward labor that remain unchanged from European religious teachings about work and service. These foundational principles show complete continuity with European origins. American rituals encompass barn-raising ceremonies adapted to American building styles using available American materials and construction techniques, harvest celebration methods modified for American crops like corn and soybeans rather than European grains, community project organization patterns adjusted for American distances and transportation challenges that didn't exist in European villages, and seasonal work coordination adapted to American agricultural timing and weather patterns while maintaining traditional spiritual foundations and community cooperation that defines authentic mutual aid and collective responsibility within traditional frameworks that emphasize community welfare over individual achievement and personal recognition within established community structures that preserve European values through American practical expressions. Food and meal customs. Traditional food practices demonstrate how European culinary heritage adapted to American ingredients and agricultural abundance while preserving spiritual significance of shared meals and hospitality. Traditions preserve traditional recipes brought directly from Germany and Switzerland, with exact preparation methods passed down unchanged. Food preservation techniques using European methods like traditional fermentation and root cellars, meal preparation customs that maintain European concepts of hospitality and family gathering, and spiritual attitudes toward food sharing that reflect European Anabaptist understanding of community and stewardship. These culinary foundations remain identical to European practices. American rituals include community meal timing, adapted to American work schedules and seasonal patterns that differ from European agricultural rhythms, guest reception ceremonies modified for American social conditions, where visitors might travel greater distances, food sharing patterns adjusted to American abundance and variety of available ingredients unknown in Europe, and feast preparation methods developed for American celebration needs and community sizes while maintaining traditional spiritual significance and cultural identity preservation that characterizes authentic hospitality within traditional community frameworks that emphasize collective welfare and spiritual significance of shared meals, and community gathering that strengthens social bonds and preserves cultural values through practical expressions adapted to American conditions and available resources. Property and business practices. Land ownership and business operations show how European concepts of family property and economic cooperation adapted to American legal systems and economic opportunities while preserving spiritual values about wealth and stewardship. Traditions maintain land transfer methods identical to European family property systems, inheritance patterns that preserve European concepts of family continuity and stewardship, business operation principles that reflect European Anabaptist understanding of economic cooperation and mutual aid, and spiritual attitudes toward wealth and property ownership that remain unchanged from European religious teachings about materialism and community responsibility. These economic principles show complete continuity with European origins. American rituals encompass community witness requirements adapted to American legal systems that require different documentation and procedures, ceremonial transfer methods modified for American property laws and registration requirements unknown in European village systems, business blessing patterns adjusted to American economic conditions and market opportunities, and economic cooperation methods developed for American agricultural and commercial conditions while maintaining traditional spiritual foundations and family continuity that characterizes authentic property management within traditional frameworks that emphasize family preservation over individual ownership and personal wealth accumulation that conflicts with community values and collective welfare priorities established by traditional religious teachings about stewardship and economic justice within established community structures. Conflict resolution methods. Community discipline and dispute resolution demonstrate how European Anabaptist justice principles adapted to American legal requirements and social conditions while maintaining spiritual foundations of restoration and community. Harmony. Traditions preserve community discipline systems identical to European Anabaptist practices established centuries ago, conflict resolution patterns that maintain European understanding of restoration versus punishment, justice administration methods that reflect European community governance and spiritual authority, and reconciliation processes that preserve European concepts of forgiveness and community healing. These justice principles remain absolutely unchanged from European Anabaptist origins and maintain identical spiritual foundations. American rituals include community meeting formats adapted to American settlement patterns where families live farther apart and travel longer distances, confession ceremonies modified for American social conditions that provide different privacy expectations, reconciliation processes adjusted to American legal requirements that didn't exist in European village systems, and dispute mediation methods developed for American economic and social conflicts while maintaining traditional spiritual foundations and community harmony that defines authentic conflict resolution within traditional frameworks that emphasize restoration over punishment and community healing over individual justice that characterizes modern legal systems and individualistic approaches to problem solving that prioritize rights over relationships and legal outcomes over spiritual restoration within community contexts that preserve traditional values through practical applications adapted to American legal and social conditions.